businesses are not left the same as they experience the Midas touch from the Business Sector Advocacy Challenge Fund, BUSAC Fund. All over Ghana, BUSAC Fund has made it a priority to help business triumph overwhelming challenges through evidence-based advocacy.
The BUSAC Fund was established about 8 years ago, and the reason was there was a gap in the dialogue between the private sector and the public sector. And that gap was identified by development partners. So they encouraged some initiatives, and these initiatives gave birth to the BUSAC Fund.
We are very happy with the support that BUSAC has been providing, and that is also what we hear being echoed around by development partners, by government, and by recipients and grantees. So I think altogether we can be quite proud of what BUSAC has done so far.
They provide concrete results. The value for money of the EU support to BUSAC Fund is that they have been awarded for the third year in a row the award of CIMG.
We have a focus on private sector in general. We focus a lot on transparency and accountability of the PSOs.
The BUSAC Fund provides funding to these grantees, and the fund provides 90% of the cost of the advocacy action, and this is topped up with 10% contribution by the grantee. The 10% contribution is to show their commitment, enhance their ownership of the advocacy action.
We work at different levels. We are district level, regional level, but also now we're focusing a lot on national issues, advocacy issues, policy issues.
We are part of the same world, so we have economic interest together between Europe and Ghana. When there is higher growth in Ghana, there is better growth in Europe. And also when there is higher growth in Europe, Ghana will benefit of that. So it is in our mutual interest and benefit that we work closely together so that this partnership can make our respective economies stronger.
For BUSAC Fund, the answer to the challenges facing the Ghana Cooperative Susu Collectors Association was just evidence-based advocacy. Susu collection is one of the oldest traditional methods of mobilizing savings in Africa.
For the past 18 years, I've been doing this work in the Tema metropolis. And in fact, through this business, I've gained much visibility.
I've been in this business since 1983. If you are only sincere, you can go on with the business. Through this business, I've been able to educate my children. I'm having 4 children.
15 to 17 years. 12 years. Ni how many were on? Care of first, so now she cannot come up with school fees. No, now she cannot go buy or no about fear. Well, what first swag? Walk about books can how be my co-op or be my school.
Susu dear, we are a bois. Just a market no. I won't change into yes, Susua, Busun wa, Yajia to me, the Santo Yama de Blue, Yamanum. A wami wa, no one if you.
With the absence of a regulatory framework to help guide and supervise the operations of Susu collectors in the country, the Ghana Cooperative Susu Collectors Association was left at the mercy of fraudsters and unqualified personnel, denting the image of the association.
People entered the business at will and exited at will, meaning that there was no form of regulation. The situation was bad, and in that, a group of Susu collectors in 1994, specifically in the Greater Accra region, realized that their activities needed to be regulated.
The idea came up during one of the workshops under the Rural Financial Services Project. This was an action to get the collectors under the control so that the sector would be regulated and have more discipline.
However, because of the Constitution of Ghana, which stipulates that freedom of association, some Susu collectors were not willing to join the association.
So at the initial stages, Bank of Ghana's reaction was more of the sector cannot be controlled, and therefore they are thinking of what to do with it. I mean, to deal with it in another way, because clients continue to lose their money, their savings, and then creating that bad impression of the operation. Yeah.
There were a lot of reports in the print and then the electronic media about Susu, the activity of dubious Susu collectors duping the public of large sums of money.
This problem adversely affected the credibility of Susu business in Ghana, thus weakening the confidence of the general public and in the once trusted indigenous Ghana Susu scheme. The need to mainstream the activities of Susu collectors in Ghana in order to maintain public confidence in the profession arose.
When we did a Susu study, we realized they command a large amount of money on quarterly basis, on yearly basis. Even though their savings are short term, they were collecting a number of savings from the public. And again, you ask yourself, which people were they collecting the savings from? The very poor. So that research actually informed us that something has to be done about this group.
In February 2007, the association applied for the Business Advocacy Grant from the Business Sector Advocacy Challenge Fund, BUSAC Fund.
BUSAC Fund was introduced to the association by the service providers, Felix Pansa and Ato Henson. They approached the executives of the association about the need to advocate to relevant regulatory authorities to gain recognition and then be properly regulated, the sector to be properly regulated.
A service provider, it's a consultant who is helping them, offering them advice, and then facilitating the process for them to achieve their goal.
We sort of facilitated the process, but then in terms of on the forefront, they were showing their faces at the forefront. We play a role in advising and then making sure they have what it takes to get to the BUSAC Fund. Because what they were asking for was not an easy task. You need a whole lot of, I would say, changes before you can get to a level where you start requesting for self-regulation.
Realizing the important role Susu operators play in credit mobilization for small businesses within the private sector, the BUSAC Fund, supported by the NIDA, DFID, and USAID in Phase 1, provided an advocacy grant to the Ghana Cooperative Susu Collectors Association to enable them embark on an advocacy program to persuade duty bearers to mainstream the operations of Susu collectors in the country. This advocacy was entitled Promoting Regulatory Environment for Susu Operators. The very first step the association took was to conduct a desk research and a nationwide survey to properly investigate the challenges confronting the Susu business in Ghana.
We conducted sensitization programs for the members, both registered and non-registered Susu operators.
We had some workshops that actually give some orientation as to how advocacy action could take place and some of the instruments to use to do advocacy.
And then also there was media campaign to create awareness for the relevant stakeholders about the work of the Susu collectors. And finally, we organized national and regional dialogues with all the relevant stakeholders. So those were the main activities that we engaged in.
The association then organized a national roundtable dialogue to engage the relevant duty bearers such as Ministry of Finance, Bank of Ghana, and the Ghana Association of Microfinance Institutions, GAMFEM, in a discussion demanding the mandate to self-regulate the operations of Susu sector. These proposals were submitted to the key stakeholders, particularly the Bank of Ghana, for their input. Eventually, the proposals were redefined, finalized, and submitted to the Bank of Ghana for approval.
GAMFEM actually fronted the whole process by going to the ministry to tell them that there's a group that calls Susu. This is what they are doing and we need to get them on board on everything that we do. Again, in terms of the reports that we had from the research, we shared with the ministry. And since that time, one of the key things that we asked the Susu to do was to make sure they keep on collecting data about their members. and we share the data on daily basis, or let's say on quarterly basis with the Ministry of Finance.
There were barriers that we needed to surmount whilst conducting the advocacy action. One of the challenges was the regulators' attitude towards Susu. You know, Susu collectors were many, as at the time we're having about a projected figure of 1,000, 2,000 plus in the country. And the capacity of the regulator in terms of regulating individual Susu collectors was not encouraging. They were not friendly to the executives at the time, but through the help of the fund, the association had been able to convince the regulators to realize the relevance of Susu collection in Ghana.
After 5 years of consistent advocacy, the Bank of Ghana in January 2012 gave the association the mandate to regulate and supervise the operations of Susu collectors in Ghana.
Meaning that the association has been formally recognized to play that intermediary role, which was more or less a headache for the central bank because of the capacity.
Additionally, the Bank of Ghana tasked the association to print license for all legitimate Susu operators, and these licenses, bearing the logo of the Bank of Ghana, shall be signed by the President of Ghana Cooperative Susu Collectors Association and the head of the Banking Supervision Department of the Bank of Ghana.
With the regulation, we are identified.
We started putting on uniforms so that they will know the difference between a Susu collector in our association than the rest.
We have also informed our customers to ask for identity from anyone who comes into the market who wants to do the business with them. It has also made us to now bring into our fold all the floating Susu collectors who are doing their work illegally.
Thanks to the advocacy program sponsored by the BUSAC Fund, the Susu sector is now properly structured, and the entire Category 4 of microfinance institution is finally dedicated to licensed Susu collectors who have the mandate to mobilize savings from customers. This recognition from the Bank of Ghana has ensured that Susu operators have now been properly integrated into the national financial sector, and also makes it convenient for the Bank of Ghana to keep an eye on the activities of typical Susu operators.
We appreciate and we thank the fund for supporting the association to achieve this major feat. However, there are some challenges again that we need to embark on.
Without BUSAC Fund, maybe we could have done the activity, but would have taken a longer time for us to get to that level.
There's still a need to do a lot of media awareness. The regulations have been passed, but a lot of Susu collectors, mostly in the rural areas, are not aware of these regulations. And the association needs a lot of support to be able to reach out to those unlicensed and regulated Susu collectors.
The remarkable achievement of Ghana Cooperative Susu Collectors Association and their advocacy action demonstrates that well-planned and executed business advocacy can be used to remove many of the obstacles impeding the growth and development of the Ghanaian private sector. All these has been made possible by the Business Sector Advocacy Challenge Fund, BUSAC Fund, with support from their development partners, namely DANIDA, USAID, and the EU.
BUSAC Fund is always adapting to the reality of the market, and even I am pleased to note that they are even in a position to anticipate the market, and that's really the job of a policy advocacy institution, and to anticipate what would be the development of the market, so that the private sector can adapt, can adjust, and also can propose what should be the follow-up in the future of the market and the policy environment, and that's the BUSAC Fund is doing quite well.